Hello and welcome back to Versus. We've got James on comms again with us. Welcome back, James.
Pleasure to be here. Always happy.
We have got Joe playing against Tom, which is great because these are players that we've not seen at all or very often.
Not at all on camera, but they're both relatively new joiners. Joe's been playing Magic in the shop for ages, but relatively new joiner to Canlander. I think Tom is also a new recruit, as it were.
Yeah, so excited to see some new decks and some new players. Joe's playing Grixis Midrange, and Tom is playing Azorius Tempo. I have an Azorius Tempo deck, so I've got a little bit of a soft spot for what Tom's trying to do here. It is tempo. It is not control. It is tempo, as he likes to make it very clear. The idea and the game plan is we're going to stick some early threats. We're going to maintain control of the board, stay ahead, and get the opponent dead with some early threats that have been protected. The points here are Mox Sapphire, Mox Pearl, Mana Drain, True Name, White Plume, and Urza's Saga. What's Joe in? What's Joe doing?
Joe is on a Grixis mid-range list. It's in that kind of sweet spot when you hit the Grixis and Esper mid-range shots. They are a bit controlly as well, so it's on the more controlly end of mid-range. But chatting about it weekend is so much. This is Grixis bad cards, so he's
Okay.
that's not true. There's many good cards in here, but there are some kind of more pet cards that maybe wouldn't typically find a place in 2025. The Scar of God being one that Joe mentioned specifically. Tolarian Terror is a very particular type of card that you don't get in many decks outside of Tempo, but he has included it here. Points for Joe are 3 on Underworld Breach, which is a spicy little include, 1 for Vampiric Tutor, and then a wide spread of ones with Strip Mine, Reanimate, Mystical Tutor, True Name Nemesis, and Psychic Frog.
How nice. This is a very aggressive force early on to get rid of that Inquisition. Something needs
Yeah,
protecting.
there is a very good card in Tom's hand. Will we see it? It could be Ether Vial.
It could be Ether Vial. Ether Vial's an interesting one. It is not a card that I'm playing in my Tempo deck. And maybe that's wrong, but I've never really played with this thing, so I'll be interested to see how it goes.
It's one of those cards that when it's good, it's so good, and when it's like medium, it's so medium.
Okay,
You
right,
top
yeah.
deck it on turn 6, and you're like, great. But I don't know how to what extent Tom knew what Joe was playing here. Starting off with the Badlands doesn't imply getting around counter magic. Kind of element of Vi will be huge, but it actually will be against the Grixis deck. So
Yeah, I
if
can
if
see that.
this is what was protecting, it's a good shout from Tom.
Yeah, nice. I like that. I think Joe's said a few times that this deck is a pile of cards that he owns as well.
Yes.
So it's like cards he likes, cards he owns, good cards. Or well, he calls them bad cards. They're not bad cards. They're just not. This is definitely falls into the category of a list that is not finely tuned for the format,
Yeah.
but is a mid-rangey pile of cards that people own. And you've got to remember, people watching who are ultra spikes, people like to turn up and play Magic the way that they like to play Magic, and this is an example of exactly that.
And that is a totally legit way, especially when you're starting out, right? You remember all these cards that were busted in modern or standard or type two or whatever format you wanted to play
Yep.
or whatever time it was. You're like, oh, maybe I could give that another go here. So yeah,
Well, I
it's
think you even said that you played a Demir Tempo deck because that's what you played in Standard for a bit, and you wanted to transfer it to Canlander, right?
so actually, I think the very first time I showed up to a Canlander event, I just took a Dragon Lord Silumgar commander deck, shuffled him in, and took the command tower out. I was like, this will be fun.
Yeah, it's a real good way of starting out. Also, bit of a shout out while players are setting up here with an Esper Sentinel on Tom's side. We had 26 players this week
Yeah, that's
at our
huge.
event. Insane. Like I'd love to know if anybody's watching who goes to weekly events in person. I'd love to know what your numbers are like compared to what we get in Nottingham, because to me, 26 players for Canadian Highlander is just absurd, especially when it's not like a special event. It's just one of our weekly events.
Yes, as a TO, that was more of a logistical challenge than I'm normally used to on a Sunday morning. But it was it was really cool. It was just so great to see so many people there and enjoying the format and seeing so many like new players like Joe and Tom, who are both recent.
Yeah. And I guess that's the other thing that I'm kind of commenting on, is that when you've got that many players, you are going to have some more casual-minded players turning up as well. So it'd be cool to see some of those decks in the future too. Some cool stuff
Yeah,
going on in this game as well. Harbinger coming
yeah,
to shut down Joe, but fortunately a free Fury can clear the way.
yeah. That was a massive like 2-turn swing. The Harbinger, which obviously can't be responded to when she knows the Harbinger, then coming into Meter Vial, and then having the Fury to kind of not only clean that up but clean up the Esper Sentinel was a big like, oh, I'm dead. Oh, I'm not dead. Kind of side from Joe, so he can get back to playing the game. This Vial doing quite a lot of work, ticking up with only 3 mana on Tom's side. The Vial has done a lot of work, kind of keeping him going while the mana wasn't cooperating. Going up to 4 is a lot. You don't often see tempo decks with 4 as a key number. I can't quite see it as anything
That
really
must
terrifying
suggest that
in
there's a
that
4 in
hand.
hand. I'm trying to think what
Yeah,
the
and
4s are in the deck.
I mean, I'm always going to think of Seasoned Dungeoneer when I see
So
white
there's
and 4.
Palace Jailer, Seasoned Dungeoneer, and Subtlety. Oh, Witch Enchanter as well, but I suspect that's not what it's going to be one of the Palace Jailer and Seasoned Dungeoneer probably.
Yeah, and if that is what he's got in hand, that's going to be a huge kind
Oh,
of flash that
yeah,
in it.
to flash that in end step, and then if it's Seasoned Dungeoneer, this is going to be disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, even Palace Shailer. I mean, Palace Shailer you should do on your own turn if you're just doing it to get the monarchy.
Yeah, the idea of initiative, your turn, my turn. Okay, we've got a
This is
clique.
this is a great one to have as well. Yeah, Vendilion Clique's a really cool effect.
Stomp it before we see the hand. Smart,
Yep,
because now that giant's in exile.
can't be just put on the bottom. There's a lot of removal spells there.
Okay, we've got Brotherhoods, Cut Down, and Dress Down.
An interesting shout might have been to just flash in the dress down in response to the clique, but Joe potentially looking to save this for greater value later.
Yeah, that's an interesting decision. That is. There probably are scarier things, but it's gone now. So maybe it would
It's
have been
also
better to play it.
Yeah, it's hard to say when you're in what is an unknown match for these two players. And it's not like a regularly done. Oh dear, it is J. It's not a regularly done archetype kind of that either of them played each other a lot, so they're just kind of making best guesses.
Yep, that's
And
fair.
dressed out. Yeah.
So as we just guessed, this is going to be pretty disgusting. We get two stabs at the initiative straight away. So Ether Vial, I was always thinking of it as its power being the fact that I can keep mana open and essentially play creatures at instant speed, so that I can hold up mana to protect my board, and that's kind of like a tempo-y thing, right? You want your creatures to have flash. So that I got it, I get it for that, but I thought that the numbers was just going to be clunky. I hadn't really thought about the fact that you're protecting yourself from counter spells, and that's a pretty big deal, and that's so you can see why therefore that Tom's protected it from Inquisition, if that was the thought.
Yeah, the Vial's a really interesting one in the decks because I think you don't want to. I certainly don't just slam it in any old creature deck, in any old creature mid-range deck. You want, I think, in order for just how bad of a draw it is on turn like 7 when you've got like 2 cards in hand and 4 mana, that like you want the upside of not having to tap your mana or getting things at instant speed you can mitigate, and the tempo deck does that really well, right? It's holding up counter spells, it's holding up other types of interaction, it's got other flash threats, it can like the click in. So it's really good if you've got that type of deck. So if you're going to fit it anywhere, then that's a good place to have it. But I wouldn't necessarily just like. It does have, it's not uncommon to see it in Death and Taxes lists, or maybe like some like white weedy decks that want to get under counter spells, but it's not a regular occurrence, I wouldn't say.
This
And
Touch the Spirit Realm is not a card that I would have expected to see in this list either, but it's going to be pretty important here. The idea of just turning Joe off a creature we know that we've got Brother's End and a cut down in hand, so it means, hey, you can't take the initiative back.
Yeah, those are huge swings, right? I imagine Touch of Spirit Realm is more here from its like modal element that you can have the flicker effect on it as well. I don't think that Tom's almost certainly not playing an Oblivion Ring or something like that, But it's just the upside of having this, modal cards is you have an effect that people aren't necessarily used to having to deal with. Minor upside of not taking 2 damage to the Bone Crusher Giant when the Spirit Realm, targets it, but still, like it's all a lot of value. And with so much removal and interaction in Joe's hand, even though Tom's now a creature, he is churning through this dungeon under very low pressure.
So, interestingly, I played Azorius Tempo a few weeks back, and I found myself in a spot. So my deck's a little bit more focused on Winter Moon, Winter Orb, back to basics, that side of things. Fewer creatures than this list, but I found myself with an Enlightened Tutor in hand, and couldn't find a removal spell with it. And I remembered thinking to myself, I should probably update the list and put some kind of an O-ring in there, just so that Enlightened Tutor is an answer in specific situations, and maybe Touch the Spirit Realm is that card for me.
You lose out by being 2-color in that deck. You lose out on the value of Leyline Binding, which is the one that I always look to in my 3 and 4-color and 5-color decks even.
Yeah.
So you lose the value from that. So it might be that extra kind of modal element to it makes it a good shout if you are looking for that type of addition.
Like Protector, Harbinger, or there's quite a lot of things that you could do with it. So I'll have to think about that one. But it's a cool include. I like it.
So trying his best to try and take the initiative back. Do whatever we can to let us know the guys hit Tom square in the face, because it's pretty rough if you do get to the throat of the dead 3, especially when Joe's on 7 and whatever creature Tom gets will have hexproof and counters and all kinds of stuff.
You're allowed to turn the creature sideways.
It just looks like a flash jump blocker. This is basically a fog at this stage.
It is, and it's an important flash jump blocker. So much so.
Get that Terminate out, which and those 2 mono blue lands me and Joe can't recast that Terminates. That's a huge reprieve.
Wow.
Literally in the name of the card, and it's a reprieve from having to take damage.
Hey,
from Tom's point of view.
The name does make sense.
It does. Here's an excellent example of Joe not just playing Grixis bad cards. Psychic Frog is an excellent card.
That's a rubbish card. Yeah. Useless.
Throne of the Dead 3 now. So this is huge. On the assumption that, one of the many cool and powerful tempo cards that creatures he could find, he gets that's an Oculus.
There's an Oculus.
Huge. Yeah.
That's an Oculus
that's
with
a white
protection.
Plume as well. And a White Plume if you wanted it. Like Oculus just seemed like the correct choice. But White Plume and Oculus as being some of the options is cool. But yeah, this an 8/8 flyer, which is guaranteed to get at least 1 Manifest Red in, regardless of that Terminate that's sitting in Joe's hand. And if by the time this Oculus loses its hexproof, Tom will have drawn 2 more cards. He'll definitely have untapped mana. There's a reasonable chance there's just counter spells for it.
Yeah, that's a pretty important hit for so many different reasons.
Best time for a jump blocker.
Yeah, we get to block the frog as well as the Netherglyph. It's you're just keeping the initiative, and that's what this game. So often we talk about the initiative as being crazy in a 2-player game, but the game turns into right. I need to keep this now, and I'm going to make weird decisions to make sure I do keep it, like flashing in a Containment Priest just to be a chump blocker.
Yeah, exactly. There's also not an unlikely shout that there are creatures off of these Manifest Red triggers for Tom as well. So even if this, not that you would ever use a Terminate on anything that wasn't a Sabbatical Oculus.
Oh my goodness, Tom does not want to see those 2 cards.
No, they're really
creatures.
sad.
They need ETBs.
Really sad. Yeah. That is unfortunate.
Palace Jade goes to the bin.
It's okay. Actually, I suppose you could get the White Plume back. I don't know if Tom's playing Helping Hand. Helping Hand maybe feels a little bit niche outside of creature combo decks. He's probably not. No, he's not. Oh,
That's
no,
the standard
Justice.
one, right? Is that the standard one?
Yeah, it's
the
Unearthed
the Oculus.
White with other bits, and yeah. I'm just going to compare it to the Canlander cards I know that do the same thing, not to the actual like standard decks that use it. That's how my brain works.
I don't know why I'm asking about standard decks. I don't play standard.
Yeah, how do you know that?
I guess I know the cards that are currently in standard because I've drafted them recently.
Yeah. Oh, this reanimate. I mean, I suppose if you're already dead to the opponent Oculus, losing 4 to try and get the initiative and isn't terrible. I wouldn't have hated to get. I suppose it's got Hexproof, so the Palace Jailer wouldn't get the Oculus with it. Yeah, that's a good shout. It might even have been worth holding the reanimate for. I suppose Terminate's killing it anyway. I'm just trying to think of like maximizing the chance of this Oculus dying, because if, as you as I suspect, Tom's might have some interaction to stop this Terminate going off. That'll be important. So we'll just have to see.
And I suppose the next phase of the Undercity is not particularly relevant at this point. Just getting a basic, so maybe waiting a turn isn't too problematic.
Yeah, like it's probably not doing loads for Tom. Like this Oculus is more of a problem than the initiative is now, especially if it doesn't die to terminate.
Because if it doesn't die to terminate, you're chumping it with a frog.
Yeah, and that's basically it's psychic fog. Yeah, psychic fog.
I told you the frog was rubbish. It's just there to chump block.
So is this gonna die?
It's the most scripted of removal spells you've ever seen.
Yeah, so this is what is rough.
Right, we're scooping there.
Okay. Yeah, we don't want to use the frog as a fog. We just want. Oh, and there was the swords to be drawn anyway, so it didn't matter. Yeah, there we go.
Yikes. I like to think that that's because Joe loves the frog so much that
he can't bear to shove
refuse.
Oh dear. Yeah, it's a good showing for the Tempo deck, and doing a lot of work even though it didn't have the early creature. And you saw the value of the vial there, right? It just meant one turn was Mendelian Click and Seasoned Dungeoneer, which is a big swing.
And so I'm playing in my list. I'm playing like 22, 23 creatures, whereas Tom's on 33. So Ether Vial gets a lot worse as your creature count decreases.
Yes, there is definitely like a minimum required number for you to make good use of it. 100%. I'm not sure exactly what that number is to say. It's not something I've played around with, but
I think I need more convincing. Basically, I'm just expecting to choose to uptick it and then draw the cards that are all the 2-drops when I've upped it to 3, for example. Oh, okay. Well, we get to see it again.
So my assumption is you just draw it on turn 7 or 8. So Tom is proving me wrong every time.
No, the part of this card is that you only ever have it in your opening hand.
Yes.
So I can see why Tom likes it.
It is interesting as well. It's part of how my brain works, because we've chatted about how I'm quite a defensive player. I think quite a lot about how good is a card when you top deck it on turn 7. Right. More than anyone who plays red deck wins as their main deck ever would, Like, it's just interesting in terms of how different people assess cards for different reasons.
Because I also look at cards' flaws, not flaw as in like its lowest point. Yeah. But the flaw for me isn't necessarily top decking. But it is interesting to see where people go to. And so many people, especially when they're first starting out, are looking at the ceiling of every card. Of like, well, Ether Vial allows me to cheat in a card, a creature every single turn. Here's an Esper Sentinel.
Yeah. This is cool. There's no reason to not use the Vial to cheat in the Sentinel, and it's doing it on your own turn means any spells that Joe might cast, been shown to have a lot of them, might draw you a card. However, this Psychic Frog is a real problem. Having it on turn 2 when you're on the play if it doesn't go answered, which it's not currently been, and letting Joe untap before answering it is a risk. We talked about one game becoming about the initiative, and then about the creature that Tom got off the initiative. Psychic Frog can easily become that just on its own, regardless of the initiative mechanic. Just it becomes about, oh god, I always have to block this. Oh god, now it's a 4/5, and now it's a 4/5 that's discarded enough cards to let my opponent
now I can't
cast the
block
bow
it.
and oculus. Yeah, and all of that stuff. So I hope for Tom's sake there was a meal spell in hand, and I hope for Joe's sake there isn't.
Yeah. When the frog, it shows how powerful the frog is when you actually are looking at your hand and going, yeah, I'll discard all this.
Yeah. That's not sure about that play from Joe getting the Surveyor land, which means he couldn't pay for the Esper Sentinel trigger. I think just getting an untapped one,
Yeah, I agree.
the spend from the thing would still be active, and the counter spell that would have been a huge 2/4 with that Molten Collapse. Killing both of those things would have been massive. And then he still got in with the frog, but that would in essence have ended up being guaranteed 3/1, right? Your one removal spell is killing two of your opponent's things and making sure you draw an extra card with the Psychic Frog. So that's the counter spell was really clutch there, and shows the value of Ether Vial. I mean, you didn't have to. You drew an extra card basically because of this Ether Vial in the Sentinel.
Yeah, it's tight play. It's tight play.
Yeah, really good stuff from Tom.
Strip Mine could be painful.
Yeah, if there's not another white source.
That's Caracas. It's just a white source.
Yeah. But I mean, there is a reasonable number of legends in Joe's deck. I mentioned Scarab God at the beginning. There's what else is there? Let's have a look at the deck list, shall we? Ragavan's in here, like Kiora. There's not actually loads, so it's not a huge problem for his deck. Sheldred's in here, but cutting off the white source and cutting off a card with a land with a powerful effect.
The thing is, the Caracas, right? The Caracas is all you need to do is draw one legend, and you're like, great, this card's almost dead.
And I think even if Tom was just on Island Plains there,
Fortunately, there was a Lorien revealed there to cycle that away, replace it with a Tundra. So we do have a white source.
Nothing to do from Joe so far, though.
No, it looks like the plan really is just play a frog and hope it wins.
Yeah, discarding some cards.
This is aggressive.
I think might even be trying to bait out removal spells with lands that he doesn't think he wants.
I think Joe actually just said that out loud. That I'm just seeing if I can bait a removal spell. See how far I need to push you.
It's big brain plays from Joe.
Ooh, Colligan's Command.
Going for another classic Rakdos 2/1. But again, the card drawn off of the Esper Sentinel. Like I don't know. I suppose that was a Thundering Force and a Splyrift Canal. So maybe if one of them entered untapped, it would have made sense for Joe to have kept it to be able to pay for this Sentinel trigger. But this Sentinel is just chipped in with a couple of extra cards and keeps surviving these 2/1s that Joe's throwing at it.
Yeah, if a Sentinel can draw 2 cards, you've done a pretty darn good job with it.
Yeah.
I don't know about force negation.
We had to take
okay.
him back force negation. Right, okay.
We didn't force, we snapped with a loose focus instead.
Yeah, it was just a little interaction for me as well. That was a cool set of lines. I'd say we're quite happy to do a bit of, if no information's changed, the casual take back is not the end of the world. So.
Yep. I mean, if anything, all Tom's done is just shown Joe that there's a force in hand.
I'm going to reveal this. And you're allowed. I believe you're allowed to reveal your hand at any point in Magic. I'm not 100% certain. No one quote me on that.
I think you get told off for it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting because Joe's not really been able to really get ahead. He's got the frog, which is doing a lot of good work, but he's not like both his attempted 2/1s afterwards have failed. They've been hit by counter magic, and it's just a bit the same as the first game. Like he's been a bit overloaded with interaction and a few lands that you had to discard to the frog, rather than getting more threats down, which seems quite important in this matchup to have stuff to play to the board, to make Tom make decisions between holding up removal / counterspell and pushing to the board himself. But both these games have been a great advertisement for the power of Ethan. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's what I wanted to see, and I'm definitely seeing it. I was just thinking, Psychic Frog. One of the reasons it's so powerful is because it's a value engine in itself, right? But in this game, and maybe this accentuates how much of a value style player I am. We've seen it discard 2 cards and draw 2 cards, whereas an Esper Sentinel has just drawn 2 cards. We do have a Cryptic Coat off a Stoneforge Mystic, which is nice and spicy. There's a comment it did get flashed up that Tom was considering including is it the Aegis Assimilation Aegis?
Oh, okay.
In here just for the Stoneforge Mystic, but it's probably one of those cards where you just don't want to draw it, you only want to find it off a Stoneforge.
Yeah, it's nice to have a removal spell that you can get off a Stoneforge, but it's not the most impactful. I can't remember what it exiles. It's like creature or planeswalker or something like that.
So let's look it up. I've lost it, but it's the thing that you can equip it to make something a copy of what you exiled, which is kind of.
I feel like it costs loads to equip though, right? Maybe it doesn't. Maybe I've made that up. Maybe it's a reasonable cost to equip.
It's only 2 to equip.
Okay, that's not too bad.
And it only targets creatures.
So that's a bit of a restriction. It's not the end of the world. Obviously, the main thing you probably will be targeting, but
Because of course, then when you equip it to something, that thing becomes a copy of what you exiled with it. So it's only creatures.
That makes total sense.
Yes.
Oh, still going up to 4. Okay, I suppose Tom's got 3 mana. So if you top deck Seasoned Engineer, or maybe he's just got Seasoned Engineer again, just to be powerful. But there's definitely you have to look at the volume of the quantity of creatures at a certain mana value to decide what's worthwhile. But maybe just popping up to 4 for the safety is good. But there is some element of counterspell magic we talked about from Joe. There is, the fact that if you've got 4 mana, you can probably just cast 2 drops. It looks like a Fairy Mastermind in hand. Still a Force Negation that we know about.
Nobody knows anything.
Tom's one of these people who, when he plays his cards in hands, he barely moves the positions, which doesn't help at all. So I can't tell what his ones are.
Shuffle your hand for us.
Yes.
There you go. Oh, it's just the 2 cards that we knew about.
Right. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I suppose Cryptic Coat, Force Negation, Fairy Mastermind.
God, these have been so sick.
Yeah, I think Joe's draws must have been pretty darn poor in this game.
He has discarded 3 lands to a frog so far, which is, not really where you want to be. I think a lot of times when I've done stuff with frog, I'm discarding very specifically for something like a really early cruise or an Oculus or a Murktide or something. Or it's just a 1/2 that I keep just killing the blocker so it can keep drawing a card, or threatening at least to get bigger so you can't really block it effectively and stuff like that.
So the drown targeting Tamiyo just so that the frog can hopefully get in to draw a card. Looks like it's happening.
This is.
We do need to pay. Do we need to pay, or have we paid for the Sentinel? Yeah, looks like we might have done.
Yes, I think so.
No, we didn't. We didn't pay, but we could. So there's no draw.
Might as well. Yeah, the slight risk of Joe's not on a really low life total, but it is unfortunate that this Psychic Frog doesn't have any blockers to help it when it's going on the rampage, because there is eventually going to be more damage from Tom's side. It's not completely unreasonable that this. I mean, it doesn't even get a chance to block; it just can try and get cast down. But it's not completely unreasonable that
Tom's so far ahead on everything at the moment that maybe just chump block. Oh, okay.
Go for the throat.
Oh my word. Okay. Ah.
And that gets the force out. Right.
Wow.
That is.
Incredible. And all that was just for a chump blocker on the frog.
I don't.
So you go.
I don't know if we might have missed an Esper Sentinel trigger in all of that as well. There was 2 immune spells. I didn't see Tom draw a card, so that might be a
So we
misdraw
could pay.
step.
We paid for one of them, right? Because it was cut down and go for the throat.
No, it's cast down and go for the throat. Cast down is 2.
Oh, cast down. Yeah, we may have missed some draws.
But you only get 1 Eternal Sentinel anyway.
Yep.
Seven.
So you go. And one card.
But there is, I think, only 1 card in Joe's hand, maybe 2. So Tom's just trying to force this advantage. He's left Stoneforge up to, sneak in a flying manifest. No, it's not manifested. It's disguised or cloaked.
Yes,
Or I don't know,
disguised,
something.
Exile.
Because it gets ward, doesn't it?
Yeah, these ones have ward, but it gets flying from the coat.
Yes.
It's
I love the done of it.
Smart. I like it. I mean, Tom's playing this really well. I really like the way that he's playing it.
It's flying, aren't they, blockers?
yeah. Joe's kind of been forced to keep just having this aggressive frog.
Oh, yeah, so take 8.
But what that's
But there
meant is
is-
that an Esper Sentinel and a Snappy has just been hitting him,
Yeah, exactly.
which is what those cards have been printed for.
I mean, and you have to assume there's some blockers or interaction on Joe's side. Yeah, there's a Ragavan that can do that, but because otherwise, I think if this Stoneforge puts the coat in, isn't that lethal? Like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Because I think it gets 1 power for the coat, doesn't it? If I remember rightly.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but the Ragavan and I assume open mana to block.
Is it two?
Oh, we just activate him
Just
to return it. Anyway.
bouncing it back.
I'd like to.
Okay, so we've got a 4 mana loop of make a 2/2.
Just try to square each other.
Now that's value.
Right, Flame of Anor killing a cloak is a cool line, and not dead on board, even through a removal spell. Only 6 damage on board, but Joe not in a great spot. I'd imagine this Ragavan is chumping like whatever it can get in front of now, even though that's not normally where you want your favourite monkey to be.
His cloak can't be blocked, right? Or is it just?
No, this.
Oh, it's when
the
it's
cloak,
equipped, okay.
the cloak gives it ward 2, so this has ward 2.
Oh, does the cloak not give it flying? Does it give it can't? I can't remember what that card does. It was so obnoxious in Murder's
I
Limited.
think
don't know.
it's.
Combat.
Yeah.
Type 3.
Just okay. I do wonder a bit why this Stoneforge isn't getting in. Maybe there's another equipment to do something with it. I think I would attack with the Stoneforge there as well. Just get the extra point of damage
Yeah.
in.
So just to confirm, the coat does not give flying. It gives
Right.
can't be blocked. So
Right.
it wasn't there as an option to block a frog.
Right. Okay.
I am going to reprieve.
Oh, reprieving a brainstorm at this point of the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to happen again, but if that's your only interaction, maybe you just want to squeeze Joe's mana.
Yeah. I mean, Joe's not got any blue mana now.
No, part of me does wonder if you just want to wait and reprieve whatever he tries to do after the brainstorm,
that's-
but that might be. Yeah.
I think that's what I would have done. Whether it's right or not, I don't know. But
Honestly, I think it might be 6-1, half dozen of the other type situation. Like, this probably is slight upside one way or the other, but often you'll just get the same result regardless of which way you kind of
true.
try and lay it. The only other element is if this brainstorm would have locked him out of lands, maybe, but that's it's hard to make it's a very specific call, to try and go that way.
we got the dream of a fetch off a brainstorm.
Find something exactly now.
You really don't want to go to 2 though, because that's dead in even more ways. Because you just need to get hit by one of these 2, and yeah, that's it for Joe. He's not got anything to follow.
We'll do it. Really sweet game. I really enjoyed the overall match. Unfortunately, Joe didn't have enough gas there. I don't think the frog wasn't quite enough. But even just
The
the
frog
frog,
is good. But,
the
yeah.
frog in itself did make Tom have to play that tight. So fair play to him. And yeah, thanks again for joining us, James. And
was
thank
fun.
you to everybody else as well. We will catch you next time. Bye.